What's up, guys? I am joined again for another weekly episode with these great people besides me. I got Josh and I got JC below me. Hopefully, you guys are listening. I know there's been a lot of views lately, so this is awesome. We got some great topics, just like normal. But keep checking us out, Landscaping to the Point. So, as we start today, my great topic for today, and this I think will come more back to Josh than anything. So he's thinking right here.
I don't know what
So
it is either.
he doesn't know what it is, guys. This is good. I didn't tell nobody anything on this one today. So when you guys go out and buy equipment, if you do you guys go out and finance it, or do you cash roll it and pay it for it straight out? Yeah, that's a good one.
This is actually a good one, especially going into the season. It's 50-50 with me. So I am a big supporter of positive debt. Positive debt meaning that you take on a debt of equipment as long as you can, you know that you can afford those payments and it's not going to interfere with your actual income, with your profit margin. So, if you have that extra income coming in, you go ahead and do it. So, an example, like, Timmy starts up mowing. He's got 5 accounts and he wants to go get a brand new Gravely mower or whatever. Um, am I going to advise him to go buy what a Gravely's like 16 grand for a top end one or something like that?
Yeah, brand new top one is I think yeah, about 16. Yeah.
Yeah, so no, at that point, ideally for me, like starting out, I'd go buy used equipment and then work my way up to the point. Right now, being into it and having the means and the customer base, I still do buy some stuff outright. We just brought in. I ordered 2 skid steers. We received one. I'm waiting for the track machine. And the one we have is on Cat Financial. That will probably knock out halfway through the year just to avoid the interest on that. But again, my biggest thing, if you're going to finance the equipment, just make sure that money's there every week. It's more or less that if you get to the point where you have so many accounts, and I'm going to use the example of mowing, you know that you can cover that nut. So let's say, I'm just going to use fictitious numbers. You're bringing in $2,500 a month. Your expenses, your overhead and your living expenses are only 2 grand a month. You have that 500 to play with. So that's almost expendable income or reinvesting income. So put that into, a $150, $200 a month payment on the mower. Try to knock it out as fast as you can. Take advantage of good rates. Shop around for good rates. You don't have to go through the dealer financing. You can secure your own. Obviously, at any interest rate, and I think Mike Bedell would probably kill me on this, but like even if you have bad credit and you can get on at a high interest rate, there should be no reason where you can't make profit off that. And I'm talking like if you get like a 20% interest rate, I wouldn't be scared at that if I had the clientele and I know I could grow it because now I have a brand new piece of equipment that I know shouldn't fail me. Shit happens. We know that.
Right.
Rather than, buying, a 10-year-old mower and, now you're going to be stuck fixing it on Sundays, taking away from your family, taking away from your free time. The peace of mind is where it's at. But I mean, I still buy older equipment though, like straight up cash and new equipment. I'll buy cash if I have it. But my rule of thumb, even for personal life, is I like to have my capital on hand. You never know what happens. So capital on hand is great for me.
Okay.
Long-winded
JC,
answer, I
your
know.
thoughts? Your thoughts, JC?
Yeah, I'm a lot smaller than most
Right.
people that do this full time. So the equipment that I have is very minimal for me and what I need to get the job done. I think I definitely made mistakes when I first started off. I'm still making mistakes to this day. Naturally, I've always, even outside of business, I've always kind of used cash for everything. I'm kind of old school when it comes to that. Um, but one of the mistakes I made, I think I probably would have been better off if I bought a used commercial mower as opposed to a new residential mower. But nonetheless, when I first bought my equipment, I paid cash for it. But I definitely see the reason behind having that positive debt. I'm not in it myself, but I could definitely see it. The way I look at it, it's you're financing a money printer to print money, And then once you print that money, then you're going to make that money back. And if you do it right, and if you're smart about it, now, if you go out and go on a shopping spree and just buy everything left and right, that's a different story. But you have to have the work behind um, the product that you're intending to buy. So if you're going to buy a mower, you better have some lawns, or start working on some lawns that you're going to be possibly mowing. But I could only talk from a smaller standpoint. And I think in the future, if I were to kind of upgrade my equipment or gain more clients, I would absolutely look into that, as far as, expanding in a sense of how I want to grow my business. And I think it all comes down to how you want to, what are your goals? What are your goals? Do you want to expand your business? Do you want to improve? Do you want to get more employees? Right. So you're going to have to do some of those things in order to get right then and there, because it's just a longer waiting game if you try to do everything by cash, I think.
Can I just kind of double back in something that Jensen said, kind of ring a bell here? And for myself, I think the reason why I'm such a pro supporter of financing is because in my younger years, I sound so old right there, my younger years, but in the younger years, I was such a cash guy. I was never taught about credit, about leveraging debt. So that really hurt me to the point where, like, I didn't have money, and I was using money to pay for everything. As I grew older and I talked to some of the old timers, I always heard, no, pay it off. You don't want that nut every month. In the same sense, new stuff will break, it's inevitable. That's what warranties are for. But it's the peace of mind of going out and knowing that you're going to start up that brand new truck in the middle of the night during a snowstorm, and it's going to start. There's not going to be a fuel pump, or there shouldn't be a fuel pump issue. Again, knowing, like Jensen said, knowing that you can cover that note is important. Like, if you go out and you buy the whole shop, if you're starting up and you're buying, a $16,000 mower and you got 50 to 100 grand in a landscape trailer, you're going to be in trouble, especially if you don't know what things cost. I don't know, man. I really think that, for me personally, if I have 40 grand cash in my pocket and I'm looking at a piece of equipment, even if it's on like Facebook Marketplace that's used, I'm going to try to either negotiate the best price I can possibly get. And I am a haggler. I say that loud and proud. Like, I am that guy that, like, what's your bottom price? But I'm going to try to negotiate the best price, or trying to find some financing. And you don't have to use the entire life of that nut. If you get a 6-year nut to lower that payment, that's just to get you by until you can really get things flowing. And it will happen if you budget right, and you don't go, oh, dude, I just made all this money off this brand new machine. Let me go out and have dinner with my girl. Let me go out drinking and partying. No, you get it, like I said before, I referenced that $2,000 profit, that $500, $2,000 take home for your living expenses, the $500 extra. Now you're making 35. Throw that at the note, throw that at the principal, and knock it down. Because guess what? If you go into your dealer and you get your FEIN number and you have them apply that, they will report that to Duns and Bradstreet, which is the business credit report. And now that way you can actually go in a couple of years later after you make these payments, and you can take financing out under the company name rather than taking it under your name. And it's a little bit easier to leverage the debt that way, because corporate or business credit reports are different from personal, where they're not looking like in a personal account. They're going, okay, late payment, 30 days, 60 days. They're just looking, paid it in 30, didn't pay it. It's not late or due. It's paid across the board. So there's a lot of benefits to that. But I mean, if you're paying in cash, 40 grand for a machine, what happens if you need that capital later on? A truck blows and you don't have 80 grand to buy a truck, and now you got to go out with 20 grand, and now you're starting over. And I know, guys, the hustle and grind, but this is keeping stressors down and trying to make sure that you have enough funds in the piggy bank to cover anything that comes up. And I feel like guys that go out and they go, oh, I just spent 60 grand on this truck, I paid it outright. And it's like, what are you going to do if something else breaks? Like, the prices of mowers, even used, is ridiculous right now. It's crazy. Like, the Walker mowers, like the price of a Toyota Corolla. It's insane.
Oh yeah, I think prices are ridiculous now from when I were buying originally. But I feel like you can also go into a dealership, and I've done this before, is I've gone into a dealership and said, I want this brand new Gravely, but I want the demo one from last year. And they'll give you that demo, and it's still the same brand new piece of equipment. It still has the warranty on it that the other ones do. Okay. It might have a little bit of hours on it, but it's not going to have more than 100 hours on it. So you're already starting out with a new mower that has the warranty and it's less price. So instead of paying 16 grand for that mower, you're going to pay maybe 10 grand, and you still can finance it and go through, month to month and pay it off as soon as possible. That's a better way to look at it if you're going to need brand new. But I agree with you both. You probably should make sure that you have the work there before you go out and just say, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go buy everything I need, get it all financed, and hopefully it'll work out. You're just, pushing your minute by minute on that.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead. Sorry, Jay.
yeah, I actually I had the Gravely rep come and bring some mowers over to my house to demo a few years back. And sorry, I was coughing up earlier. He brought 3 mowers, and he actually offered me one of the demo units, and he would have had my dealership ship it over to them, or not ship it over to them, but have them make the sale for it. And it was a huge discount off of it. I mean, it was right then and there. When I started off, it was, for me, I don't know, I thought it was a little too out of my price range. I should have took the advantage of opportunity on it, but yeah, they definitely do that. And if you're a handler like Josh is, you can definitely make that happen.
But like, even like you're saying, Jay, like a lot of these dealers are offering 0% for 24, 48 months. So that's right. It's borrowing free money. The thing that sucks is if you don't pay that back, what happens is typically they backdate the interest from the day you receive the mower. So that's how you end up screwing yourself. People go, oh, you know what? If it takes me an extra 6 months to pay it, it's only 6 months of interest. No, it's 3 years worth of interest you're paying back on that. So that's the downside of taking that. But yeah, no, I mean, if you can take advantage of going in, getting a demo and getting the 0% financing, take it. That's like borrowing money for Scott, and you're basically just switching hands with the money. And then you can't write off the full purchase. Typically, state to state it might differ. You depreciate it. So the 3 to 5 year rule. So you buy a piece of equipment, you keep it for 5 years, you depreciate all the way down, and then you flip it and you buy a new piece. The big thing that I like is I go back and, like, in the beginning when my credit wasn't so great and I had to buy stuff for the company, you can write off all interest on any purchase, no matter where you are. So if you're paying 38% interest on a mower at skid steer, you can write off that interest payment until it's paid off, until it's gone. You can't typically write off the purchase. You depreciate it for 3 to 5 years. But if you're paying $7,000 a year in interest, that's all deductible, no matter where you are. And that's facts.
Yeah, that's great information. I hope everybody learns from this. So now we're going to go on to our second topic, which Josh is laughing because he knows it's probably about him.
I get picked on a lot, no matter where I go with these guys. Jesus Christ.
That's what brings the viewers to the show.
Right. So if you guys have an irate customer, how do you guys deal with it? Do you lose your cool, or do you kind of walk away?
This is good at me. I sent a text message about an irate me. Jensen, I'll let you start.
Yeah. All right. I got to figure out how I want to put this. So I professionally deal with irate people.
Oh yeah, you do.
On the business end of things, I haven't had that happen at all, really. I mean, I've had customers that have requested things or maybe weren't really happy, but they weren't like their tempers flaring or anything to that extent. Just people wanting to get a deal out of your service and not wanting to pay you what you're worth. And so I guess I'll answer that in a sense is where, like, you still have to be a professional at the end of the day, I think. And it's more hurtful for the company because anybody could put a review on your business and say you're horrible. And a lot of people, even if it's bullcrap, people will that'll be a negative towards you. Like, people will look at that as a bad thing, and they'll judge you on it. Whereas you're the business end, you really don't have a defense on a bad review. So I mean, they're gonna be mad anyways, no matter whatever answer you give them. But I think you just can't allow it to control your emotions, and you just handle it as best you can, man. And if it's at the end of the day, that person or that customer is continuously be a hassle to you, just move on to the next customer. Don't fire them, and just move on and take your business elsewhere.
Correct.
All right. I'm
Go ahead.
gonna use two examples here of two different circumstances that both involved me getting upset. One was the beginning of this off season, which was November, December. I was just Googling Curve and Green Company. And typically I'll go on there just to see if like anything new pops up, like any of the articles I've written or anything like that come up with the company. And I noticed I won't utilize Yelp, and I don't utilize Yelp just because I don't believe in their business model. I've had experiences with them in the past with other industries, and I just don't support what they do. And I noticed I had a 1 or 2 star on them. Like, that's different. I'm 5 stars across the board. I should rely more on reviews, but I don't, just because even my good customers just never follow through with the Google review. I go on there, and I was kind of like taken off guard. And it was a customer that we did a slight grade elevation in, basically like a top dressing with like 25 yards of loam and some seating. Explained to him how everything was going to work. He had 2 different areas where one was full sun, one was like partial, like maybe like 2 hours of sun, well, no sun, you would consider it. No irrigation. He was on a 20% grade. So there was tack mulch that was put down, there was seed that was put down in the dirt. He had the day after we had seeded it, I seeded it myself. He called back and he said, "There's not enough seed down." I said, "There's plenty of seed down. Like I did more than what it calls for." And I said, "I'll be honest with you." I said, "What I do is on the end of that 20% grade, I said I take a spring rake, flip it around, rake the loam a little bit over it, and then tamp it down just to make sure erosion doesn't take over. And then I put the tack mulch on it." It's just my method. In my head, it makes sense that you're going to get erosion, but it wouldn't be as bad. And he says, "No, like I've seen the lawns before." And I said, "You know what? That's okay. I know people, it's more like what you can see is what you have. So, okay, that's fine. I'll put it down." So I put it down, and he's like, "Not enough." So essentially I put down like 5 times what you should have put down. And I told this guy, I'm like, "You're really taking the chance of choking out the lawn when you put down that much seed. Like, this is getting kind of hard for me to say, hey, I want to warranty it. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick." I didn't use this word. I said, "I'm not trying to be rude to you." I said, "But I just want you to fully understand exactly where we are." So he calls me back 2 days later. He goes, "Yeah, I don't know. I'm still not feeling it." And, at this point I am a little annoyed because this is a pretty simple job. I know what I'm doing. You're not listening. And I've explained this to you time and time again. And it got to the point where it's kind of like, just, I'm doing the Josh, where I'm kind of riding the bull through the store and not letting him talk and deflecting his questions, because it's like, listen, this is what we're going to do. This is seed, 21 days for germination. It's not going to come up full lush right now. You got to wait. You have no irrigation system. We had a downpour like a week and a half after we put the seed down. You're probably going to have to overseed in the spring, aerate the goddamn thing in the fall. I'm just speeding through this right now. And from my understanding, he was happy. I went back there the last time. He shook my hand, said, "I appreciate you being attentive and coming right back and taking care of things." I go on Yelp, and it's this motherfucker. This guy sitting there, and he writes a review about my attitude. And granted, how I sound, right? Obviously, I have this Boston accent, and sometimes it makes me sound like I'm mad or I'm talking with an attitude, and I'm not. And most people, the customers that know me, know where I come from. When I'm mad, I'm mad. So what I've learned in my whole self-help travels right now is that, I kind of have to step back and make sure I didn't do anything. So I go back and I look, and what pissed me off the most is in the review, he said, "They did a job for my neighbor and it was mediocre at best," the neighbor said. So me being me, this is where I get petty. I text the neighbor and I said, "Hey, it's Josh Curve Green Company. What's going on? Like, your neighbor wrote a review and said you were less than happy." And he was like, "Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about." So basically I responded to it. I never respond to reviews. I wanted to rip this guy's fucking head off because it was annoying the way that he slandered me and I couldn't respond to it. I took that one with a grain of salt, left a message saying, "Hey, listen, I apologize if I came off confrontational with you, blah, 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 blah. We did the job as in scope." Sent them a screenshot of the contract of exactly what we were doing. Exactly, Massel. And this was one of these privileged assholes too, to be honest with you. Like, this guy wasn't hearing it. So at the end of the day, like, will I go back there and correct anything? Absolutely not, because I went above and beyond for this customer. Now, fast forward to this week. I have to be very careful because this is still ongoing. I have an account and one of the services I provide. I was due a substantial amount of money, that's technically overdue. This came down to I'm stuttering through this because I got to be careful how I word this right now. But this essentially came down to paying points for money that was due, because there's three hands in this job for this contract, and the top one isn't paying the middle one until they get paid, and that's me. This isn't like national management or anything like this. This is all construction management. So essentially, shit rolls downhill. They're telling me that I need to pay a percentage on what I'm due. So technically, from me to the middleman, I'm due. I'm overdue. The middleman to the top man, they're not due yet. That's not my problem. My contract is net 30. So I sent a text message out that I guess could be taken out of context. I thought, but I did follow up with a couple of colleagues in this, like 7 colleagues in this area, to make sure. And when I get on the phone the day trying to do the wire transfer for the money, man, when I tell you I got hit out the gate, I was berated with just like questioning my integrity, that I was cheap, that I didn't understand how this worked, blah, blah, blah. Now, again, I'm going off what I have on paper. This is my contract. This is where it's going. And I'm just being called like, you're inconsiderate, what we've done for you and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we've had a helping hand with the middle company a little bit, but at the end of the day, like, we get a heavy nut down there to pay, because we're still paying out labor. We still have loaders, skid steers, trucks, salt, equipment. And I just gave away what the fucking service was. So there you go. But I did. I ended up losing my cool. I couldn't help it. I'm only human. And I went, like with JC just showed that muscle. I was muscle extreme. I was a poster boy for it. I mean, I went off. And you know what? You're only human. And it was a professional, absolutely not. And I did have to swallow my pride, a day or two later, and send a text message back and apologize for responding in the tone I responded, in the language that I used, not for what I was responding to, but how I responded to it. Because you know what? They got the best of me. I am temperamental. I'm not going to lie. Like, I have a short temper. And, but when you're berated and someone's questioning your integrity, and I know the type of person I am, that pissed me off, man. But I think a lot of it is you can only take so much as a human being. With the first guy, I took a step back. What I advise everybody who's getting into the game is don't take it personal. Take a step back. Make sure there's not merit to what the complaint is, because sometimes there is merit, and we just take it personal. Because in the beginning, I did take it personal, and I've gone nose to nose with customers in the beginning. Fuck you! What do you mean? You fucking grass on your walkway? Blah 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 blah. Take a step back. It's only landscape. It's not the end of the world. Look back, and people appreciate it. If you look back and you go, you know what, I see what you're talking about, but let me explain to you the process of how we do this and why this wasn't done. It's out of the scope of work. And maybe you take the 5 minutes to do it. On this last one, I'm dealing with men that have been in this industry for probably 5 decades, if not longer. So when I get hit out the gate with like slander and insults, like me being me, I go into fight mode, and I'm trying to get my word in. At the same time, I'm confused as to what's going on, because I'm not expecting to get this unprofessionalism from these people, and I'm trying to, like, my brain's trying to catch up with it. So yeah, I think with an irate customer, you just step back, let them lose their shit, and kind of assess the situation. Your best thing is to keep you cool and just stay on point of what your point is to get across, and try not to let it get under your skin. I know it's easier said than done, but try not to let it get under your skin.
Being professional doesn't mean you have to cower to what the person is upset at you about. Like Josh said, apologize for what you know you're wrong for, but don't apologize for what they're accusing you or of. If you're not at fault for something, don't just take it and say, yeah, you know what, you're right, I was wrong. Because if you're not wrong, stand up for yourself a little bit, do it professionally. But it doesn't mean that, being professional, that you have to cower to what their expectations were, and, and be the yes man to the customer. That's, you're not going to do good going that way.
And there's nothing cooler than being the guy that can keep his composure and keep a straight face in the same tone. Like, no matter how right you are, if that instance was me, and I was in public with a customer flapping my arms and barking, guess who's going to look like the idiot? Me. no matter what the circumstance, I'm going to look like the idiot, even if I'm right or wrong. So you want to try to be able to keep that composure. And if you do lose your shit, like Jay just said, apologize for that tone, for that instance, but not for what the fault is right there, especially if you're not at fault. You don't have to cower. Like one of the biggest things was saying no to customers. You're not there. You're not a servant. You're in a service-based industry. You're not a servant to these people. So, keep it cool, document everything. And then after that, like for me, I have red flags now with customers where like, I might be like talking to them and certain verbiage they use. I might go, yeah, this isn't for me, or I'll price it out of the park so that I know they won't touch it.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. I've had an instance in the past that we were doing a patio and we started the patio and it just kept raining and raining after we dug the hole. So we were already pushed back from the begin start. So talking with the owner was fine with it. He was no problem. We were still on time to get it done by the date that he wanted it done by. So pretty much it was me, two other guys out there pretty much on and off, day by day, because we were kind of running two crews trying to keep mowing up and, do this. So I'd say I was there pretty much even on Saturdays. I was there on a Saturday and be like, okay, I'm here. I'm doing it. I only brought in so much material at a time because I wanted to make sure it wasn't sitting there because, I didn't want it to, sit there and, look like it was just sitting there and not getting used. And he was fine with that. So we got to a point which I thought I was at least 60% done. And he called me out and said, well, I want to meet you out here one day. And I said, okay, not a problem. So we were out there. At this point, he was already complaining that it wasn't going to get done on the time frame. At this point, there were still 2 months left to get the job done. So I said, okay. So we're out there. I said, okay, told my one guy, I said, we're going to go out there all day. We'll be out there all day. The guy wasn't supposed to be there till 2:00. So he shows up at 2:00 with his father, which, the guy's pretty much my age and his father's, 20 or 30 years older. So they literally sit there and confront me saying that it's not at 60%. How is it at 60%? And I said, well, this is what's done. This is what still needs to be done, not a problem. So after a couple minutes of going back and forth and, he's like, well, I had another company come in and they looked at this the other day when you weren't here and said that you're not at 60%. You're only at 20%. And I said, how do you know that I'm at 20%? How each company's different. Yeah. One company could say I'm at one point, and one could say the other thing. So he goes, well, I want you to leave off my property. I said, okay, fine. And we grabbed our equipment and walked right off the property. So that came into a play where we ended up getting sued off of it. And literally, I documented everything after that. I kept all my receipts. I documented because literally 3 weeks later after this, I took pictures and I sent one of my guys down there, took off his shirt, walked down there. There was a concrete company down there hauling all the bricks out because he wanted a unilock patio. He literally hauled it all out and ended up concreting the whole thing. So I had my guy go down there, take pictures and all this stuff. So literally it went to court and literally got thrown out. Pretty much my lawyer knew the judge. So literally a lot of it got pushed off the side and my lawyer pushed it for like months upon months. So that way the guy would have to keep showing up to court and I could keep working and just never have to show up for court. So that it came out to my play to where, all I can say is you got to document everything. Like you said, Josh, document everything you can. And I kind of learned from that is that I do a lot of document through emails, text messages, and it's just, to me, it's easier. So if a customer says, well, I want this done, I'll say, well, if I'm not there and I can write it down, not a problem. Text me, email me, so I know exactly what needs to be done so I can go on from there. And that way it's easier to talk back and forth to the customer. Sometimes some of the customers are kind of like, well, why can't I just talk to you, meet with you? That's fine. I'll do that. But to me, it's easier if you can document it and get it all taken care of that way.
Scott, would you recommend that, let's say, for example, you have a customer that just wants to communicate over the phone. Would you suggest a follow up with an email, just to document the phone call? Hey, as we spoke about, blah, 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 and just to have something like digital in case it becomes just to, so that you don't have that he say, she says thing. It was a documented thing that you guys spoke of. I don't know. Just kind of a question, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's the easier way to do it is to either text them afterwards, email them, so that way nothing's misconstrued. Because I have had that in the past where somebody will talk to me over the phone. I can't half the time I don't have real good hearing, so I can't hear everything that's being said. So to me, to be able to say at the end of the call, let me get your email, let me get your text, your phone number. I'm gonna text you everything. I'm gonna put it down. And since we've been using Jobber, I kind of put it into a quote and just send them a quote or send them an attachment saying, this is what I did. This is what we talked about, and, let them know. So that way they can come back and say, okay, yeah, I got that. I understand. Yep. Or no, I was talking about this. It's easier to have it all documented because sometimes you might say to a customer out on a job, okay, I'm going to put it right here in this part of the yard. And then they show up after you already put it in there and like, well, why'd you put it there? And it could be easy reasons why you had to move it. I've had that before where I go in to plant some bushes and they wanted straight along the fence. But once I got down like 5, I had to move it 10 inches out because the irrigation line's there or there's a cable line there. So you got to, document them and you got to let them know exactly like, hey, this is what happened. What do you want me to do? And that's the easiest way to do it.
And those are pretty basics too, because I like everything Scott just said. And the question Jensen asked is where I was want to go into. And Scott, you're right. Out the gate, one of the most important things to do is to document, like you said, is as easy as sending an email. And for guys that don't think that they can afford a CRM like LMN or Jobber, I don't know all the CRMs, but anything you can do to really upload what the scope of work is, even in Yahoo, type it up. Yeah. Scott used the example is trees. I've been in trouble with placement of trees before where there was a miscommunication. Keep a notebook in your truck and just literally circle out, measure off the house, 100 feet out from where the house is, 4 feet apart, circle them out, have the customer sign off on it. Now, when you are changing a work order, which would be considered a change order in the construction world, you don't necessarily have to charge unless it's something major. But if the customer goes, yeah, I don't want the patio that way. I want it to actually go 90 degrees the other way with, a bigger slope and a seating wall. My suggestion would be, if you're in your CRM or wherever you're using and the estimate's 505, opening up quote 506, and then put change order amendment to estimate 505 and as descriptive as possible. Write down exactly what you're doing. Customer request changes to a 90-degree angle, 5% slope with a seating wall, approved, have them sign it. And I mean, you can do this again, Yahoo, just get a verbal. Yes, Jensen, IJC, approve this quote, blah, blah, blah. As much correspondence through email as possible. Text is cool. But I would prefer guys to use email throughout the entirety of their business. So like, Jensen calls me and says, hey, I got, 37 shrubs I need planted. I need mulch, blah, blah, blah. Can you do this? Yeah. It's going to be 1,500 for the shrubs, 2,000 for the mulch, weeding's not included. That's something separate. We do that per hour. Like that conversation right there could get so mixed up where at the end of the day, now Jensen gets a bill for $700 in weeding. He goes, what? Well, you told me it was 2,000 for the mulch and all that stuff. So as soon as you get off the phone, jot that down. Put it in your notes on your phone, jot it down. You get home, copy and paste, put it in an email and say, hey, if you respond as soon as possible, we can get this going. You don't have to necessarily have a CRM or something, but if you can just keep one specific email dedicated to your correspondence with your customers, everything you talk about, follow up. Think about when you go to a doctor's. Everything's followed up with the printout and a portal or in the computer. You talk to them on the phone, they're putting it in a portal where you can log in and you can check everything they said. You're thinning the liability when things come back on you. And then you actually have a foot to stand on when there's arguments.
What about photo documentation of your work?
Absolutely. Yeah. Listen, I know guys with snow that will do site reports, and the site reports are literally just a video and picture of what they did before and after. Think of when you use middle management companies like Ferrandino Case, you take photos as proof that you did the work. In the beginning, when I was starting and I did mowing, I took pictures of every property, just to, not to like put on social media or anything, but just to have and say, hey, if anybody came back, this is what we were doing. It gets a little busy to do that now, but if you can do it, do it. Like, a picture of 4 pictures from each angle of the property. Why not?
It's like delivery services. They take a picture of the package being delivered too.
But
Yeah.
it's you're then in the liability. Hey, we delivered it. It's on the porch. Someone stole it from you.
And all these pictures you guys can add into all your CRMs. I mean, that's the good thing about it anymore, is that you can upload these pictures to CRM. You know, and just like Josh said, if you're drawing it out, having them sign on it, take a picture of it, put it up on the CRM, so that way you can take it and show it back to that customer like, hey, this is what you approved already, but then I might have to change it up. You know, and that's a perfect thing.
And just because we're talking about it, I'm going to just throw some stuff out to people listening. And, you know, this isn't a pitch. I know like Mike is with Jobber and everything. I mean, Mike, Scott and Mike are with Jobber.
Yeah.
I'm talking Mike like he's here. So just to give everybody an example, Jobber right now, a basic account, you know, $9 a month, $49 a month for a middle plan, $129 for a big plan. I think if you're like, I'm almost certain that, you know, send quotes and invoices, $9 a month. I'm assuming that's when you pay up front for it. So it's probably something like 18, 20 bucks a month. You should be able to afford that. Even the $50 a month. So that's just, I know LMN is probably higher than that. Yardbook, is that free? Is Yardbook free?
Yeah, I use Yardbook. It's for me, it works just because I have less to manage as one person. But yeah, I can
But that's fine though. But can you correspond back and forth with it? Like, can you send the invoices and they approve them?
Yeah.
So right there, guys, free. You don't have to spend any money. And then when you need to get Jobber or LMN or one of these CRMs, then you graduate to it. But I mean, honestly, if you can do it for free, do it for free. I mean,
Right.
I personally, I do use Jobber, but we've been scaling back just because it's not really fitting exactly what we do. We don't have that much volume as many customers as it's made for, originated for. So we use it a little bit just for receiving payments, some scheduling, some quotes, but I also do a lot via email through my own system that I use. So
I think my experience with Jobber, it's more convenient for that person that's on the run as opposed to Yardbook. Yardbook, you actually have to sit down a little bit. It's not too overwhelming, but like you said, was it $9 to start or something like that, or $9 for the most?
yeah,
Yeah.
you pay it off for the year. And like for guys that are wondering how to do that, like let's say it ends up being $20 a year. You just take that $20 throughout the year, divide that up, and then you figure out how many mowers or mulch jobs you have to do. It's probably costing you 2 hours worth of work to pay for it. You know, no, with Yardbook being free, let me ask you, I know with QuickBooks and Jobber, you can actually do on your phone, like you can grab your phone and have them put the signature on your phone. Can you do that with Yardbook being free?
I don't believe so. I know it doesn't have an app, but it runs off like the mobile website. I haven't tried the signatures yet, but basically the way I do it is I just use it for my invoices and for my bills, and actually Bill Pay, so they're able to pay you on through there through one of those. What do you call it? I'm drawing a blank. Anyways, but yeah, as far as the signatures, I don't believe that has that feature now.
So from free to, let's say, $20 a month across the board, you can probably find any of them. You know, and QuickBooks is in there too, and QuickBooks is your accounting software anyway. I mean, that's what I use, but I mean, it's worth it. It's worth the investment just to have it there. You know, and some of these things do automatic follow up with quotes, invoices, and past due invoices too. So that's a big help. And I think you get more expensive as you go. But I mean, document.
Yeah, sorry, it was Stripe that I was talking about, the payment service that you link up. I was trying to put the name of that.
Yeah, I think they're all that way. And I mean, Jobber you can get the signatures. The highest plan, I know you can pretty much add pictures to every quote. You know, and you can follow up. Most of these will follow up, and that's the good thing is to have them to follow up for you. And if you ain't seeing nothing, I mean, it'll let me know if somebody sees a quote. You know, I can tell when the customer sees a quote. I can tell if they receive a follow up. I can hound them for a bill if I wanted to, and I can see how many times they open up that thing to say, oh, okay. So they can't come back and say, we never got your bill. You know, that's the good thing about it is before, I mean, I had a CRM and I could send it, but I couldn't see when they open it up. So, you know, I could go months and be like, okay, when are you going to pay me? Well, I never received a bill. Can you just send it in the mail? Like, come on, you know, you're going to see it.
I like that too, because Scott, what Scott's saying is the way it used to be, at least with Jobber, like you would say, you know, whoever creates the Jobber account has your name. So I'll say Scott sent invoice 549 on Tuesday. Scott sent invoice 249 Wednesday. Friday, customer open invoice, customer approved, so you have the timeline. So if you do have to go to court, you have the timeline right there that protects you. That's where like the small investment of doing this stuff really pays off, and it makes life so much easier. And I mean, you can do that by hand. You can do it by hand. You can do it through email, but the busier you get, the harder it's going to get to do that. That's why it's easier to just invest in something. I mean, what's a couple $100 a year?
Hey,
To
just cut down on your
invest in it.
Starbucks, your Dunkins.
That's what I mean. Cut back on coffee, or butts or whatever. For a couple months, and you got covered, man. It's dude, it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
So that was a great topic. So my next topic is, you guys live in Boston, correct?
Outside of Boston, but yeah.
Yeah, outside of Boston. So how far are you guys from the ocean?
Probably about an hour or so.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you
So they have a lot of lobster boats out there.
When you go up towards like the north,
Gloucester, right?
Yeah, where I just moved from, maybe about half an hour, like towards like Gloucester, the North Shore. There's a lot up there. Yeah. So there's a movie based off that actually with Casey Affleck.
Yeah, The Perfect Storm.
Yeah, The Perfect Storm. So that's actually based off like that whole area. So South Shore of Boston and North Shore of Boston are really where the lobster boats and stuff are at.
Yeah, tuna, right?
Yeah.
Tuna boats, lobster boats. Okay. That was good. So
I don't eat seafood. I don't like it.
we know that. Definitely, we know that. So what are you guys planning on going on for this week? I know that this week here we got snow right now on the grass, which kind of screws us. But Josh, are you about ready to get into other stuff, or?
So me and Scott were talking before we got on here, and I am kind of in a funk right now. So we've been like kind of in a pause with snow, and my schedule's been so messy. Typically I lived in the service areas that we serviced. Yeah, that makes sense. But I moved about an hour and 10 minutes away. So it's a lot different, especially for snow. My schedule's been extremely messed up. And what we do to make it fair to everybody is we do like a one-off, but me and my main guy, we do on off. So we rotate with like the salting and the inspection schedules. We might have like a shoveler or a laborer jump in if we're busy to take care of that stuff. If it's not forecast to be bad, but unfortunately for this winter, every week's been forecasted bad and it's been a dud. So I've been kind of trying to get back into like the swing of things, but yeah, right now it's Sunday. We're looking at possibly getting, who knows, that they're forecasting 8 to 12 for Tuesday. The last few times they've done that, it's been under 4 inches. We're at 30, what I say, Scott, 33, 35 inches for the total for the season.
Yeah,
right now.
inches.
Last year we were at our cap at 49.50, which is still kind of a slow season for us. But yeah, I mean, dude, honestly, I talked to my foreman and we want to get our rules typically right after St. Patty's Day. We're game for everything. Like, we typically go, okay, our off season or snow season will be up until, March 16th. St. Patty's Day is Friday. So next Monday, we might get in the swing of things as far as going down, start taking the salters out, cleaning anything, painting anything, going through all the equipment. Our excavator, we haven't had any work for it over the winter. So it's been sitting. So we have to do the service on that. There's a lot involved with bringing a lot of the equipment back. We're on 2 big sites and then 5 or 6 different sites. So we have to stop bringing everything back, reorganizing the yard, go through some training see what guys we're going to bring in. It doesn't sound like a lot, but like you guys know, like that for us, that gap between St. Patty's Day and May 1st, which is typically real spring, is go. It goes by so quick. So I don't know, man. Honestly, I just need to I need to start getting back in shape and moving around and getting on a schedule. These past couple of weeks of being kind of a dud and just doing things to stay busy are killing me.
I know Josh a little better than most because we don't live too far away, but I mean, that's a huge adjustment, and it's your first year that you moved away, like further away from your site. So I think you're doing pretty good for what you've had to deal with so far. And
I mean, factor in that, like when I go up, if I get if I can sleep from like 10 p.m. to 12, which is I'm a horrible sleeper as it is. At a minimum, to go up there and inspect properties, it's a 2-hour turnaround. Let's say 2.5-hour turnaround, depending on if there's snow or not. Just to go up and back. If I do nothing else, and then if I get a salt, I have a property that takes me an hour and a half to salt. I have another one that it's a 20-minute ride from where we keep our salt bins, a 15-minute ride where we keep our salt bins, and that's probably about another 22 minutes to salt. And then the other properties that we do collectively, they're probably about 45 minutes. So it's a lot. That's a whole work day right there, just doing that. And that, like, so if you're pre-treating, you're going out, you're doing that. So you're working 5-6 hours just getting everything ready for pre-treat salting. And then I don't have time to come back home. So, and I am shorthanded this year when it comes to snow. I'm not desperate, but we're making do because it's been slow. But then if I have a 15-hour storm, now I'm up for 20 hours, and then I got to go salt again for another 5 or 6 if it's my week. Because if it's your week, guess what? You're on. Suck it up, baby. You're on. So yeah, the adjustment's been a lot, a lot, and then still trying to do repairs at the house here, which I've honestly kind of been slacking at. I don't think I got a gold star on my wife's board right now, but yeah, it's hopefully I get in the swing of things because I'm kind of just a lame duck right now.
It'll work out.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. JC, when do you start doing like your cleanups and stuff? Will you start doing end of March or April?
Typically, yeah, but the thing is, we still, like Josh got snow on you, like you have snow on the ground.
Yeah.
We do too, and the ground is saturated, and I'm just waiting to wait. It's every year is different. I think around this time of the year, last year was a little different, but early April and just starting to get the cleanups and the stuff. Sometimes the ground is still saturated, but then like later on in the season, just like anything, once the mowing starts, just hop onto it and get them done. Yeah, it's just a lot of waiting right now. I'm eager to get out there, but can't control what's happening right now.
Yeah, I think when I used to mow, the rule of thumb for me was typically mid-May to Halloween. So it was like 26 to 28 mows. You usually couldn't justify mowing before Mother's Day or mid-May. And even then it's kind of hard to justify, but that's where you get your momentum. But even now, like I've seen guys out doing cleanups on certain areas where the lawns are, they're not as bad. There's not snow on them. I would never, just because, it's like to do it twice for me is like, it was like crazy, especially if you're going out solo or two guys, or even two guys and yourself. Like it's still a lot to go back and have to do it over again.
And a lot of the customers around my way, they don't want it done that early either.
I think a lot of ways, man. Like even the service area I'm in, when we used to try to do mine, they said no. Like I've seen guys try to pull that rakes out and start doing stuff, and it's like, what are you doing? It's sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was a couple companies out last week because we didn't have snow before the snowstorm come in, and they were trying to do stuff, but there's no way I would touch it. We had like literally 4 inches of rain in the week before, so the ground is saturated wet, and that to be able to put a mower on there and then just destroy a yard just because you're trying to do a cleanup, I'll wait. Usually we're already out doing cleanups by now. We start mowing by middle of April, but there's still time left. I mean, just because you have to move it back a week to start your mowing season, so what? You're still doing other work. I mean, pretty much, our cleanups we can get done if we hustle. We can get our cleanups done in 2 weeks. So usually I have time to do mulchings and stuff before that, and we even seen somebody that was out mulching in our area at the end of February, and it was just kind of like, really, like, I mean, yeah, we had to do one because we do a bunch of what do you call it? We work with a realtor. So literally when they go to put up a house up for sale, we go in and, mulch it up, prune it up. And so he had us do one, but it was kind of like, we were kind of like, everybody was stopping and watching us, and you were like, okay, what are they doing there? So it was kind of like, okay, well, this isn't what we normally do. So don't expect it, so, but yeah, I think it just depends on the weather, and, you got to look at, how is it out there really? If it's too saturated, just hold off. I see too many guys that just go out, destroy lawns, and then they don't own up to it. And then you're like, why did I lose this customer? Well, because you destroyed the lawn. Like, what do you expect? So, yeah. So
hey, I get a good one. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I want to see if we can jump into something, because what's on my mind is the first subject you brought up. Unless you have another subject, I know we're getting close to the end.
No.
But I figured
I'll let you go on the subject.
Yeah, I figure we could touch base on this, and then even if that's going to next week. So I want to, because we started talking about the financing and the paying out cash. Like, can we talk about like personal credit and business credit and building it, and maybe like our experiences and like, how we went from like maybe no credit to some credit, or bad credit to good credit, or good credit back to bad credit to good credit, because I mean, obviously leveraging debt and credit, it does matter in business. I mean, you can be a cash king type business, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, with growth, you need to be able to have flexibility. And with flexibility, I mean, I know a lot of people are like the Dave Ramsey way, but in business, sometimes you need that leverage, So, and I think a lot of people don't understand how personal credit works.
Yeah. I mean, it's always been up and down for me. I could have really good credit at one point, and then there's some months that, I'll forget because I'm just so busy that I'll forget to pay a bill or something. And then there goes my credit. So it's just, you got to keep track of it. And we're getting more into keeping track of everything a lot better now and trying to keep it up on time. And that's the thing, is you got to, a lot of my stuff now gets emailed to me saying, okay, it's due, due by, this date. I'll try to go ahead and just pay it then. Instead of waiting around, just go ahead and pay it and just be done with it. It's easier to do it that way than to wait on it. I mean, personal credit is different than business credit. You should definitely have both, and, make sure that you differentiate and make sure that if you have bills for the business, make sure they're getting paid from the business. Don't put them over and say, okay, I'll pay this out of my own account. If you can't pay for the business, then you probably shouldn't have had that in the first place.
Really got to reevaluate what your priorities are, paying the bills if you're doing that. Yeah.
Right. So, that's about what I got on it. I mean,
yeah,
Mr. Jensen.
I haven't gotten into the business end of credit at all. But when it comes to personal credit, it's kind of weird because I recognize that I wasn't good at that before it ever became a problem. So like when I first, as a kid, your parents tell you, build your credit, get a credit card when you're 18 and all that stuff. And I went out and I was buying stupid shit. And it wasn't that I wasn't able to pay the bills that I was accumulating, but I just found myself working just to pay it off, and I didn't have anything left over. And I was like, I don't want to, and I was doing it wrong. It's not that it's a bad thing. I was just doing it the wrong way. So I just, I just maintained a keeping cash on hand, and that's kind of, I don't know. Maybe it's a fear of getting into it, but like I said, what we were talking about earlier, I don't disagree with it. I think if from a business standpoint, if you want to grow, and you want to grow in a shorter amount of time, and you have the customer base to get those bills paid and take opportunity of those 0% finance, and then do it. If you know you're responsible and you're organized, organization is probably the biggest thing. Be smart about it, and it'll work for you. But if you go into it and you do stupid stuff, it's not going to work for you, but I do agree with that. But when it comes to personal thing, I knew enough that I was too bad at it to begin with. So I just didn't, I played it safe, I guess.
Let me ask you, right? And the reason why I bring this up is because for me, I was never taught what good and bad credit was, like save money. When you said scared of it, like what turned you off from it? Because you didn't have the knowledge or the education on it? Or just because you've seen people go into debt?
A little of both. I didn't know how to, I think I should have learned how to manage money as opposed to borrow money first. And I say that in a sense of like being more organized in life. I found out that, I was irresponsibly spending, and I knew that was a bad habit that I was doing even at a young age. So I was like, well, I don't want to continue those irresponsible spending habits and then have a lot of debt accumulated. And there was nobody that taught me like, hey, you should organize it this way, pay it this way, work towards this, put some aside for this. Like no one taught me those things. And then I guess a combination of that and some of the horror stories that I've seen, my credit score is good. I got to a point where I was kind of, because I paid my bills on time, it became a point where my credit was good. But then at some point I was like, you know what? I'm afraid that I'm going to be irresponsible in my spending, my personal spending. And I just kind of stopped utilizing it in that sense.
Getcha. All right. So, my experience on the personal credit, is similar. So I was never taught, good spending habits or anything about money at all. So when I became a young adult, everything was cash is king. I didn't know what a credit score was at 18, 19, 20 years old, believe it or not. Like it didn't pertain to me because when you grow up in that lifestyle, it's more or less like you got to pay cash because everybody was so goddamn poor. You couldn't qualify for anything. So the mindset, and I remember on like my 19th or 20th birthday, I got a credit card, entry level, $250, $500. Ran it up, didn't pay it, went to a credit. What did I do? I got an option for another one, ran it up, didn't pay it, went off. So years went by, I did this. My credit score was probably like at a 0 at that time. Still didn't give a shit, but it screwed me royally because as a young adult, I probably could have used a small line of credit to get by because I was taught by, boomer generation, cash is king, which that was truer back then. But when you're making minimum dollar, it's hard to pay everything with cash, which is what I was doing. And at the end of the month, not having anything left, like a pocket piss in or anything. Come to, years later, like probably like early 30s when I really started to try to get my shit together. Because like when I tell you I was bad, like it took me all of my 20s to kind of catch up and get things like to a clean slate that I could even start from zero. The one thing that you need to know between the business and personal credit is no matter what you see with the gurus on YouTube, Instagram, you gotta have decent personal credit in order to build the business credit, because regardless of where you go, they're still going to run your credit for personal credit. Now, you can go into a bank, a local bank, and they can look at your accounts receivable, accounts payable, your AR report, your balance sheet, and give you a line of credit based off that. But at some point down the line, you may have to co-sign something. Now, for people that are looking to maybe better their credit while they're getting into business, if you have no credit or low credit, the one thing that I did was actually apply for a secured credit card. Secured credit card is basically you put your money up against the card. So if you want a $500 limit, you put $500 down. So basically, it's like a prepaid gift card. You utilize your credit, which is credit utilization. You try to keep it at 7%. And I know that's hard at like a $200 limit, but like literally you go into a 7-Eleven and you buy a pack of gum. You wait for the report, you wait for the statement to come out, you pay the statement off, right? And as it goes up and you can utilize, maybe you put $100 on that card if you're able to get the limit up to 500 after making those payments on time for a year. Now, what you do is you leave 2% of a balance on the card every month, right? So if you're leaving $50 a month on the card and paying off 75 out of that balance, that's credit utilization. They're going to see that you're using responsible spending habits, right? And then you'll be surprised with that utilization within 6 to 8 months, how much your credit score is going to jump. And I promise you that. And then what will happen is once you get to about that 620 credit score. So let's say you're at like a 500, I'd say within a year, if you can prove spending habits and get a secured credit card at $500 and run it up no more than $100 at a time, pay it off that next month, leaving a $20 balance on it, always leave a little balance on the card, you'll be in the 600s within a year or a little bit less. And then what will happen is you'll have the option, typically like Capital One will send you a card for like 27 or 28%, $1,000 spending limit. You grab that. These aren't meant to like get and go out and fucking spend like crazy. Cause this is the shit I did in my 20s to go, dude, $1,000. Yeah. Like, hell yeah. Go out, buy a fresh pair of kicks, like whatever. Like, dude, you want food, you want butts, you want bit. Like that's what we're talking about, bad spending habits. But this is a way that like, it's like an emergency fund if needed, because shit comes up. Same thing in business. That's why I'm telling you, shit comes up. Now, when you get to the point where you can have, let's call it a 620 or higher, right? 620 is average credit. I think 670, 650 to 700 is good. 700 to 800, excellent. When you get up to the sixes, that's when you can apply for like Spark Business or business credit cards. Chances are you're going to get denied right away. You need to show like 5 years in business. You may have to send in some reports. Your best bet is now to go visit your local bank, wherever you have your checks being deposited and money going in, accounts receivable, accounts payable. You go to that bank, you sit down with your banker, you bring in your books, right? As long as your books are in order. It could be your reports from QuickBooks. You sit down, they're going to say, this is what you have coming in. This is what you have coming out. We can play with you. This might be your option for equipment financing. You need $22,000 for a walker mower. You know, you want to shop around on an interest rate because Sheffield's maybe 10%. Your bank's offering 2%, you know, with no interest for the first 2 years. You go play with that. So you go ask them and say, hey, here's my books. You know, my credit score is, you know, 550, 600, but look at the business. Look at the business and see what it's doing. And they might go, wow, okay, credit's a little low, you know, maybe, you know, work on that for you, come back and this is what we can give you. Don't get discouraged by that. It's going to happen a lot, but at least you have a ground to stand on. Second most important thing when you're looking at the business credit is you got to make sure you separate business from personal. Try not to draw out of your business account. If need be, take draws, whether it's, you know, 5 transfers a month or 10 transfers a month. It's better than taking your business card and swiping into McDonald's, you know, 37 times in a month. Because then they're going to go, what the hell is this? You're not separated. Because at least when you take those draws out and you mark it as a draw, owner's draw, you can easily deduct that out at the end of the month. But try to do the transfers and just push it right over. And then you deduct that out, owner's draw, rather than going, you know, Home Depot, McDonald's, Home Depot, like what's going on here? So definitely separate that. So when your bookkeeper or your banker looks at that, they see exactly what's going in, what's going out, and you separate that. Always treat it, even if you're not incorporated, you're not an LLC, you're just a sole proprietor, separate that. No matter what you do, always separate it. Make the transfers, write yourself a paycheck. You know, nowadays you can do mobile deposits, write yourself a check from the business, take a picture, send it over to your account.
Always the very first thing, very first thing what I did is after I got my business certificate and all that stuff, went to the bank and got my business checking account, my business ATM card, blank checks for the business, all that stuff. Like I was adamant about making sure all that stuff is separate because you have to. It's the right way of doing it.
Dude, it's not worth getting audited, but at the same time, like the point I'm making with it is like when you go into a bank and your books are that organized and that clean, they're going to take you more serious rather than someone that just literally brings in their personal bank account and you got all your expenses for the month. Like, dude, I don't carry cash for the life of me. So everything is either like typically like my housing expenses all go on a credit card. They're paid off at the end of the month. That way, everything goes through one card. We just take the debit card and we pay it off. Or if I'm out, debit card. I might carry $20 cash on me. So everything is, if I did that with the personal account, I'd probably have like 400 transactions a month. And a banker would go, see you later, dude. Like, this is way too disorganized. We're not even going to look at this. Like, if you can't keep your books organized, how are you going to take 100 grand from us and expect us to like, know that you're good at business? And I know I'm racing through this. I'm just trying to give a short cap. Maybe we can make like a half episode out of this, but it is really important to focus on that credit. And the reason why I would talk about this on the podcast is because just, I know me and a lot of friends growing up, we everything was cash because we had no choice. The difference between paying cash because you want to and paying cash because you don't have a choice is a big difference. And it put me in a hole because I didn't have the option. Well, I did have the option, but I didn't have the ability to use credit because I didn't know how to utilize it. I didn't know how to gain the reputation through the banks and the credit bureaus. I mean, you know, now I have lines of credit. I don't utilize them all the time. With business, I will. You know, business, I will. Personal, it depends on the interest rate and what I can actually put out. That's when I might look and say, it's cheaper for me to pay this in cash. But we can touch more on that later. I just wanted to give kind of like everybody a Jeff, because like you know you might see, you might see a kid that's running through and you know he's got brand new equipment. He's 19 years old. He's got a new skid steer, new mower. Yeah, I financed it all, but you don't know if he's getting co-signed. You know, your mom or dad or uncle or someone's co-signing for him. Or, you know, I had a buddy that at age 16, his mother put him as an added member on the credit card and was building his credit for years. So when he turned 18, he had an 800 credit score. He destroyed it within like a week of having it, but the same thing, you know? So, I mean, options are out there, but I think building that personal credit out the gate opens up a lot of doors with the business credit, your own personal gain, you know? You never know if you got a slow month and you got to do some credit cards, just make sure you can pay them off. But Google credit utilization, secured credit cards. That's the way I did it. And when I say I had shit credit, dude, I couldn't get finance for a piece of gum. And that's legit, dude. I couldn't get anything. I had I was bad spending habits galore, dude. I would run them up and I would literally, I was so tight for cash. I would get a $250 limit card, and I would use it to pay a bill, throw it away, and be like, fuck it, it's 6 years, who cares? And I mean, we'll get into more. I won't keep going because I know we're a little bit over right now, but definitely want to touch base on a little bit more. We can do segments on it where it's like, looking at your credit report, credit card utilization, blah, 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 business credit.
Yeah, I see no problem in that. I think we should definitely have a whole series on that, really. I mean, it's very important, and a lot of people don't realize that, and that's some good information there, Josh, JC. And so this is the end of our episode. Do you guys have anything else you want to say before we head on out?
Josh is going to the St. Patrick's Day parade.
St. Patty's Day there.
It's gonna drink lots of green beer. Don't get thrown in the green water. So
Might be green Gatorade today. I don't know if I could do beer the way my body's working right now. I might not get back home.
not a problem. Well, everybody, thank you for being on. Thank Josh and JC for being on. And keep listening to us on Spotify, iHeart, Google Podcasts, all over. Watch us on YouTube at Landscaping by Acme. Also listen to Landscaping to the Point. Thank you guys for being on, and just wait till next week when we have an even better episode. And I won't pick on Josh no more next week. So
I doubt that.
thank you guys.